Welcome back to the channel, guys. I got an old friend here back again.
It's been a long time. Yeah.
So, since we're together, we thought we'd tell some spooky stories by the fire. So, I hope you guys enjoy, and remember to like and subscribe, and let us know if you guys have any other spooky stories or things you want us to look at. Anyway, you want to start with your horror story?
Yeah, okay. One that I thought of actually comes from a very, very old TV show, black and white TV show.
Sorry, my son's over there too. My wife.
There's a black and white TV show that my dad showed me when I was a kid. I can't remember I think it was called One Step Beyond. It was similar to The Twilight Zone. But there was one episode that always stuck with me, and the story goes that there was a man and a woman, husband and wife, and they drove into town one night. The wife was very simple. She loved finding happiness in the simple things. Very lighthearted, very bubbly, but the husband was angry and very short-tempered. And he was always like losing his temper with the wife. So one night they drove into town to have dinner, and they saw that the circus was in town. And the wife wanted to go see the circus because she thought it would be so fun. She wanted to enjoy her time out there and just have a laugh, but the husband thought it was very juvenile and didn't really want to indulge her in that. So he kind of just dragged her around town. He's like, okay, we're going to have dinner. We're going to go to the bar. We're going to have a drink. And just very much, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to happen. And during the circus was having some of their workers go around town promoting. They were going to have a show that night. And while the husband and wife were at a restaurant having dinner, one of the clowns from the circus came into the restaurant where the husband and wife was, and was giving out balloons and flyers for the circus. And the clown approached the wife and gave her a balloon, and she was very happy with it. She was very excited that the clown was showing her kindness, something that her husband wasn't doing. And then the clown went about his job and went off and was promoting the circus to some other people. But when the wife went back to her husband with the balloon and he saw the balloon, he was very upset. And he yelled at her and he slapped her because he just wanted her to be more mature, grow up. And that really hurt her feelings. And she ran off because she didn't want to deal with that emotional and physical abuse from her husband anymore. And so she ran towards where the circus was, and she found a trailer. No one was inside the trailer, but she went inside to hide from her husband. She didn't know that the trailer actually belonged to the clown that gave her the balloon. And when the clown returned, he saw that she was very sad. He was trying to cheer her up. Well, she found out that the clown actually was mute. He wasn't able to speak. He was nonverbal. I guess that would be the proper term. So he communicated with her by physical comedy, and like making her laugh by falling down and like playing little jokes. Well, during this whole time, the husband was looking for her, and he also stumbled upon the circus, and he had heard her laughing from outside of the clown's trailer, and so he entered the trailer, and he got mad that the wife was there with the clown. And there was a physical altercation, and the clown was trying to protect the wife from the husband hitting her again. And the husband had actually grabbed a pair of scissors that was sitting on the clown's dresser in the trailer, and he accidentally stabbed his wife instead of the clown. Though he was aiming for the clown, and he accidentally stabbed his wife, and she had died after being stabbed. And this put him in a shock, and the husband was just very out of it. He didn't understand, like he couldn't comprehend that he had actually killed his wife. So he ran out of the clown's trailer, and the clown was also in shock, and he was very sad that his new friend had died. And he was just in the trailer with the woman's dead body. One of the other carnival workers came to get the clown for a show that was coming up, and he saw that the clown was in there with this dead woman's body, and so uh, they had some of the other carnival workers posted outside of the clown's trailer so the clown wouldn't leave, while they had the police coming to, get the clown, question him, and everything. So there were people outside of the trailer at all times. So no one would enter, no one would leave. Um, well, during this, the husband had stumbled his way back into town, and he was still trying to comprehend how he could have actually killed his wife. And he stopped outside of an antique shop. He looked in the window, and the window was this old mirror. And he looks in the reflection, and he sees in his reflection down the street is the clown from the carnival. So he turns around and he looks. The clown isn't there. He's thinking, I must be losing my mind because I went through something like this. I did something terrible, and this image of this clown is haunting me. And he stumbles into the bar. He's out of sorts, so he orders a drink, and he's sitting there at the bar. He takes a sip of his drink, and he looks up behind the bar where there's another mirror. He looks and he sees the clown's reflection behind him, reaching out to strangle him. When he turns around, there's no clown there. And he gets up and he leaves the bar in a hurry. He decides to get into his car and drive away. When he gets into his car, he looks up in the rearview mirror. He sees the clown in the back seat, reaching up to grab him. And when he turns around, no one's back there. So he's just thinking, I'm going crazy. I'm paranoid because I did something terrible, and this vision of this clown is just haunting me because that's the last thing I saw before I left after this horrible thing that I've done. So he runs out of his car and he runs into a park, and he's just avoiding looking at his reflection, avoiding anything that has the ability that shows his reflection at all. And he's just walking, feeling depressed that he has lost his wife, that he was terrible to her, that he did this horrible thing. And he stops at a bridge that's over this lake in the park. He looks down and he can see his reflection. And then in the reflection, he sees the clown come up behind him. And when he turns around, he's actually seeing face to face with the clown. And the clown grabs his neck and chokes him, and they fall into the lake. Well, in the park there was a ranger that was patrolling, like kind of like a police officer, but it was more of like a park ranger that was patrolling in the area, and he heard somebody screaming for help, and he heard splashing. So the ranger goes to where the sound is coming from, and he sees this man in a lake struggling, and he's calling for help. But the ranger also notices that the man is grabbing his own neck like he's choking himself. Um, and the it's very unclear about what happens to the man. I think we're supposed to assume that he drowns. He drowns before they were able to save him. But back at the circus, mind you, there were people surrounding the clown's trailer, waiting for the police to get there. When the police get there to the clown's trailer, they go in, they put the clown in handcuffs, and they arrest him. And when they bring him out of his trailer, the clown is soaking wet. But he's never left the trailer because there are people there the whole time. And so it just makes you wonder, like, what really happened.
I already hate clowns. They just, he, wow, it's interesting. It's like a psychological thing. Did he do it to himself, or was he like possessed by something else?
You never know.
No, was that the clown was like, was what, like kind of black magic did that clown perform on this guy?
I think it's just up to interpretation. But I just remember that story always just freaked me out. Every time we would watch that, it would scare me, but it was so intriguing. So I'd always go back and watch it. Now I kind of want to go back and see if I can find it.
Ooh, let's, make sure the camera's actually recording real quick. Okay, yeah, it is. Cool, and there's still plenty of light, so.
Okay.
I guess it's my turn to tell a story. Now this is a supposedly true story. It's one of those I knew a guy who knew a guy kind of things. So I knew a guy who knew a guy who was a trucker, and he often made shipments between Salt Lake City, Utah, and I think he said it was Cedar City. And if you know anything about Utah, there's basically nothing between Salt Lake City and Cedar City. There's some small towns here and there. There's Fillmore, but besides that, there's just desert, nothing. And he said this story happened sometime late or early December, so it was getting dark pretty early. It's getting kind of cold, and the snow and stuff. And one day he was taking a shipment. It was late at night. He had to make it to the delivery by morning, and he was going down the road when suddenly his semi truck started malfunctioning. The engine started to go out, so he had to pull over. And but this was in the time before cell phones, so he didn't really have any way of contacting anyone for help. And he got out of his truck. He couldn't. The truck wasn't starting. It was dark. It was cold, and he knew the only way that he was able to get it, or the only way he was able to go anywhere or do anything, was to walk and find some shelter, find someone, anything, a gas station, to try to call for help, because he was gonna freeze in his truck. It was that cold. So he gets out. It's not stormy or anything. It's just really cold, and he realizes that he needs to find some place to get warm. Luckily, he spotted an old abandoned house off the road, and he's like, doesn't look like anyone's there. I'm gonna go in there. Maybe I can build a fire real quick and warm up. So he goes, and he enters the place. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with it, but he thinks he hears like some scurrying in the attic and upper floors of this house. He assumed it was rats or something. It's an abandoned house. I'm sure there's rodents that roam around. He finds a fireplace. He gets some wood. He starts a fire, and he starts to warm up. But then he hears a door upstairs creak open, and he's confused. He's like, "There's no one here. There's not. Place is abandoned. There's no one on the roads. This place, we're in the middle of nowhere." So he goes and investigates. He steps out, and he looks up, and there's this banister that kind of goes up to the second floor, and he sees something kind of crouched, sitting on this banister, crouched down. And he said the way he described it, it sounded like Gollum from Lord of the Rings. This like emaciated, scrawny little creature with like scraggly hair in his face, just looking down at him. And he was paralyzed for a moment. He couldn't move. He was freaked out. Of course, like, you're seeing this thing out there. Like, what is this thing? Who is this thing? So he starts to kind of back away, slowly, so it doesn't like startle. And then, in an instant, this thing darts across this banister and scurries around. And he freaks out. He turns around and he tries to book it out of this house. He doesn't care how cold it is. And in this house, above the front door is this platform that kind of connects to the second floor. And this creature runs across this platform and gets above him as he gets to the front door and jumps and lands down on it and grabs him. He managed to he shook it off and he threw it to the ground and he ran. And he ran all the way to the next town. There he called for some help. Some police officers came and talked with him. They took him back to that house to investigate what was going on. They entered the house again with the police officers and shining their lights around. And again, they hear the door open. They shine their flashlights up and they see this creature up there. This pale, scrawny, emaciated-looking human thing, like scraggly hair, like going, just like standing on the banister again. And then they like freak out. And then it does the same thing. It runs around and it jumps. And it latches onto one of the officers. And of course they throw him down. And then they get out and they continue their investigation. Turns out, not too far from the area was an old mental institution, old insane asylum of some sort. And they had reported that one of their patients had escaped. And supposedly it was a woman, a small, petite, scrawny woman who had escaped and hid in this house. And I guess the conclusion they came up with was that she was lonely. She was just looking for some connection, like a hug. And she saw these people came into the house. So she's like, I want to get some connection. I want to hug. And so she goes and she hugs him. So that's that story. So
That's kind of
yeah, it's
an odd way to get that human connection.
I don't know how true it is. It is a guy who knew a
guy's cousin.
Yep. Those stories. So,
well, thinking of stories like that where humanoid creatures or creatures that may or may not have been human before, reminds me of this urban legend that comes from Japan called Teke Teke.
ooh.
And it's always been one of my favorite urban legends. So how it goes is, and there's different variations to the legend, but generally the rules are the same. There's a schoolgirl who's on her way home from school one night. She goes to the train station. And depending on which variation of the story you hear, it's some mean girls from school push her onto the tracks, or she gets her foot stuck on the train track, or she's pushed onto the train track somehow. And as an oncoming train passes by, it slices her in half. And so she just, the upper part of her body, her torso, and her arms are all that's left. And she's turned into what's called a yokai, or like a monster. And she haunts train tracks, looking for lonely school children who are coming home late at night. And the reason why they call her Teke Teke is because if you hear like a crawling, scrambling sound, it sounds like Teke 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 Teke. And so they call her Teke Teke because of that. A lot of variations of the story will depict her wielding a scythe, crawling on her hands and her elbows, chasing after people, and her goal is to slice people in half so experience the same fate that she did. She'll either carry them off to the train tracks so they'll get sliced in half by an oncoming train, or depending on if the variation of the story you hear is if she has a scythe, she'll slice them in half. And just imagining like this upper body of like a schoolgirl just it just like the image of it just is freaky. And it's like I feel like Japanese urban legends like that, like schoolgirl urban legends and like uh, vengeful spirits, just those are the ones that really freak me out the most.
That sound, or just imagining, just hearing that right behind me right now,
Yeah.
just like, oh no, oh no. We're not even buying any trains.
Yeah, we're just mountains.
Take it. Yeah, Japanese are on something else, man,
Yeah.
I tell you. Speaking of, though, I want to tell you something that, a horror story that happened to me. Something that's like, well, I think that's the reason why I'm into this whole occult, horror, paranormal stuff. And I'll like the Japanese kind of influence and stuff. You'll see it in a second when I get to the part of the story. But I was probably maybe 5 or 6 years old. I shared a room with my older brother. He had a bunk bed. I was on the bottom, he was on the top. And at night, or the night that this happened, he was on his top bunk, and for some reason he was practicing an evil laugh, like a traditional, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know why he was practicing it, but he was. And I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, whatever, go to sleep. Wake up maybe like 2 a.m, and I hear him go, and I'm like, dude, are you serious? I'm trying to sleep. And I'm like, knock it off, man, stop. He does it again. I'm like, dude, stop. And I get up to poke him and try to get him to knock it off. And he, I wasn't awake. Heard him snore. He was asleep, out cold. And then as I was watching him sleep, I heard it again. Same sound coming from the hallway outside my room. I freaked out. I was so scared. I got down, cuddled in my blanket, and I started calling for my mom. Mommy, please. No one came. No one could hear me, I guess. I'm like, I'm so scared. I have to go to my mom and see. And so I get up, I go out into the hallway. My parents always kept a little nightlight in the hallway just in case we had to go to the bathroom or something. And I turn to go down the hallway to my parents' room. And standing right in front of my parents' room was something. The best way I can describe it is No Face from Spirited Away. It's the Japanese kind of connection.
Yeah.
I see a tall, kind of shadowy figure with no arms, legs, just like a shadow. But it had a white face, a white pale face, just two holes for eyes, with a little slit for a mouth. And it was just standing in the hallway, just looking at me. And I was paralyzed. I was so scared. I couldn't move. And then I saw it, and then it leaned down toward me, and I fell over. And I was like, but when I fell over, it kind of shook me back into reality, right? And I ran as fast as I could past this thing and jumped into my parents' bed. My little kid brain was rationalizing, saying it was like my dad was trying to scare me, right? Even though my dad was right there in the bed. I was like, no, that's not. He was just in a mask in the hallway. And I remember climbing into my parents' bed, and I turned around and I saw it was doing this, looking back at me, and then it turned around and then walked away and then disappeared.
That's crazy.
And I was hiding in the bed. I was hiding. And for a while, I told myself it was a nightmare, but it was always I remember waking up the next day in my parents' bed. It's like I ended up in my parents' bed somehow. Something happened, and I got in there. The only like rational solution that I can come up with was hypnagogic hallucination, which is a type of hallucination that you have when you're kind of on the edge of sleep and your brain isn't quite fully aware that it's not dreaming. Kind of like the opposite of sleep paralysis, where your body's asleep but your mind's awake. Your body's awake but your mind's still kind of asleep and dreaming. So you can see things, and that's the only like explanation I can think of. But
That's crazy.
yeah, it was wild. I look back and I'm like, freaking nuts.
That gave me chills. I don't think you've ever told me that before.
Yeah,
That's insane. I do have another a personal story that happened to me. When you said like, no, this is something that happened to me in real life, it kind of reminded me of something that happened with me and my brother, and it's just like it's like a what the heck was that situation? It was freaky. Um, so my brother and I, every Sunday, on my mom's side of the family, we would go over to my grandma's house. And to get there, we would usually pass by like this very desolate, barren uh, field just like out in the valley. There was like this barren field that for like maybe 5-6 miles until we got to the freeway. So one Sunday, it was just me and my brother. We were going out there to visit my grandparents. So both of my parents, I think that they were both sick or something. They just stayed home. So my brother and I went to visit my grandparents, and then on the way back, it was dark. It was kind of like this dark where the only thing that's lighting the street are the street lamps. We're passing through this barren field, um, and we're just driving in silence. Yeah, I can't remember exactly. We were just driving. My brother was the one who was driving the car, and I was in the passenger seat. And out of nowhere, this winged creature just swoops in front of the windshield right in front of us. And in my mind, I'm thinking, that is not a bird. It's like the proportions were too odd to be a bird, and it definitely was not a bat. It was too big to be something like that. The best way that I could describe it was a miniature Mothman, you know,
yeah,
where it's like it looked very similar to how people describe the Mothman, and it just swooped in front of the windshield. And I remember my brother and I were just like, "Did you see that?" Like we asked each other, "Did you see that?" And it just freaked us out. We're just thinking, like, "What the heck was that?" Like it just left us speechless, and it's just like, "What the heck?" It was just very eerie, and I remember being a little paranoid about it because I would hear stories about the Mothman, and of course it's probably not the same. But I just remember thinking, like, what if it's just following us now? Oh, it was so scary.
yeah, those personal stories are crazy, dude. It's just like it connects so close to home. It's just like, ooh, man, nuts. Well, anyway, that's all I had prepared. So,
And if I have any more, I'll bring them up some other time.
yeah. So, but anyway, thanks for watching, you guys. Remember to like and subscribe, and let us know if you guys have any stories you want to share, or any urban legends or anything like that. Let us know down in the comments what you guys think and everything. As always, stay spooky, friends.